Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's webinar, where we will be talking about Teysha Technologies. Just before we start, I just wanted to confirm, just by a show of hands, that everyone can hear and see the screen all okay. We could just get as many hands held as possible. That'd be much appreciated. Okay, fine. So without further ado, we will start. Just bear with me. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So first things first, thank you very much for joining this evening. My name is Daniel Gurr. I'm one of the managing partners here at Quantico Group. We're a UK multi-asset class introducer. We effectively act as the bridge between innovative businesses like we're going to discuss this evening, as well as innovative thinking investors. We spend a lot of our time working within both renewable energy, sustainability sectors, biotech, areas that are deemed influential from an impact standpoint, but also areas that involve and include the enterprise investment scheme, which is a tax initiative we will discuss a little bit later on. Okay. Like I said, we act purely as an introducer, so we make recommendations or introductions to high net worth and sophisticated investors where relevant. A little bit about myself. I've spent the past decade working within private equity and alternative asset classes, acting as an ambassador to my clients within the relevant fields that I just discussed, identifying emerging opportunities and really trying to get a good understanding of where the puck's headed. We do our very best to try and be 12, 24 months ahead of trend. So by the time the likes of sustainability, renewable energy, these opportunities are popping up, we're not buying the premium, we're securing the premium in terms of the uplift. So that's where we spend majority of our time. Like I said, EIS, the Enterprise Investment Scheme, is a big part of what we do. I'm sure there's a lot of investors that are on here this evening that can relate with the tax changes that tend to be increasing every time we have a budget. So that's definitely a topic that we'll spend a little bit of time on this evening. There will be an opportunity for questions as well. If we could leave them to the end of the webinar, I'll do my best to get through as many of those questions as I possibly can. If at any point we lose any connection, or if you can't hear me, see me, just obviously write a message into the message box. So without further ado, I will introduce Teysha Technologies, which is a partner of ours that we've been working with for quite some time. The company themselves were first incorporated back in 2018. They are founded by a team of academics and entrepreneurs. Probably about 75% of their makeup are professors and scientists. Professor Karen Woolley, who's definitely a standout in terms of professors globally, is a big part of the Teysha framework and the leadership team. Okay. In terms of the entrepreneurs that are behind the door of Teysha Technologies, again, previous success and strong track record. In terms of what they do, they have patented technology. Okay, 10 years worth of domain expertise, but 10 years worth of research and development behind their patent technology. They have offices across the UK, the States, and Europe, and they have manufacturing partnerships across those areas as well. In terms of industry credibility and verification, they have collaborations with multi-billion-dollar conglomerates, one including L'Oreal. In terms of most recent validation, they were the winner of the US Innovators BPA Awards. It was a $500,000 award that they won. I think the actual monetary value is immaterial to the amount of domain recognition up against some of the greatest minds within technology, but also some of the greatest technologies out there in the market. So the fact that they have walked away the winner. In addition to that, they are a semi-finalist of the NSF Regional Innovation. Now, that is a program that provides a subsidy up to $160 million. So it's fair to say that these guys are big impact, but also making a big impact in the market as well. In terms of their mission, fairly straightforward: replace petroleum plastics at scale. First things first, I think what's really important about any opportunity, especially from an investment point of view, is look at these things from big picture. So the macro lens. And what I mean by that is, what's the problem? What's the challenge that we currently face? And I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but when these stats were put in front of me, it's actually quite mind-blowing to think that 430 million tons worth of plastic is produced annually. Less than 10% of that is recyclable. Plastic waste is actually projected to triple by 2060. $120 billion worth of packaging value is lost on an annualized basis. And the sector that these guys sit in, in terms of sustainability is ESG, which is environmental social governance, which is on track to hit a $30 trillion market cap in the coming years. And obviously, due to government intervention, regulatory pressure, the push towards sustainable plastics is now more relevant than ever. Next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about Teysha Technologies. Where do they fit into actually being able to solve this problem? I'm sure you've come across various different ideas, concepts, whether it's renewables, whether it's energy infrastructure, whether it's sustainability that we're speaking about this evening. We're aware of the pressure, we're aware of the challenges and the problems, but there's actually very few businesses out there that have the research and development and the technology to be able to deploy that at scale to actually provide a solution to that problem. And we believe that Teysha Technologies are a big part of that. Okay. To just walk you briefly through their technology, like I said, they've patented biodegradable material platform. Okay, that is designed to replace oil-based plastics. In terms of how it works, they use plant-based and agricultural feedstock, okay, as the actual material. They convert them into plastic-making components, and that produces a high-performance material, which, like I said, can be A, it's affordable, okay, and B, this can be deployed at scale, okay. Why it matters, it's obviously comparable in terms of performance to conventional plastics. It's fully biodegradable. It's compatible, obviously, in terms of molding, 3D printing. And I think what's really important about this as well, I've said it a couple of times already, is the fact that they have 10 years worth of scientific development and they have an expanding IP portfolio globally. Just to reiterate, again, at the bottom there, you'll see Teysha converts plant-based waste into high-performance plastics. That's what they do in a nutshell. So first of all, we spoke about the challenge, the problem. We spoke about the entity being able to provide the solution via their technology, which, like I said, is currently producing fully biodegradable plastics, working with the likes of L'Oreal. In terms of the market opportunity, it's phenomenal in terms of the macro outlook for this particular market. And I think before I talk about some stats, I think it's really important to talk about the stat when I said $30 trillion. Well, the ESG sector is on par to hit a $30 trillion market cap in the coming years. The reason why that's relevant is because you've got government intervention that's pushing big business to become more sustainable on their consumption on plastics, but with a huge amount of liquidity coming into these sectors. But the biggest challenge that you've got is there's very few businesses that are actually able to provide that solution. So it's almost like a reverse bottleneck. You've got the liquidity coming in, you've got the legislation that's pushing businesses to become more sustainable, but there's very few businesses out there that can effectively produce these biodegradable plastics or these solutions that are required. So without repeating myself, I think it's really important to see that this is almost a basis of a rising tide lifts all boats. The market opportunity, global plastics market is now worth $600 billion on an annualized basis. Sustainable plastics are projected to grow by over $150 billion by 2030. Packaging market's worth $1.24 trillion. The cosmetic market, which is obviously relevant to these guys and their collaboration with L'Oreal, $335 billion plus. Adventure sports market, again, is relevant to L'Oreal and one of their partners, which we'll discuss in a moment, $113 billion plus. And like I said at the very start, it's a limited number of scalable biodegradable technologies out there. Guys, like I said, if I'm going too fast, do let me know. We'll talk a little bit about if I just move myself a little bit, talk about the commercial progress and the scaling. Okay, so global production infrastructure, manufacturing partnerships across UK, Europe, and America. Dual continent, which is actually soon to become triple continent production capability. UK prototyping this year's active and live in Cambridgeshire. In-house, like I said, obviously in terms of the technology and the processing capability of their polymer plastic platform. In terms of the commercial engagement, as discussed, you've got L'Oreal, you've got other cosmetic packaging entities out there, one of the largest currently in partnerships conversations with, which should be released in the coming weeks. Woody sunglasses, and then obviously you've got other entities such as Intertech certification pathway, which is currently underway as well. I'll leave these numbers here so everyone can spend a bit of time just reviewing those numbers. These are obviously forward-looking targets. Okay, again, this gives you some indication with regards to where the company has been. So over the past 6+ months, company share price has increased to £2.80, which was actually an uplift of 180%. Okay, so last year, shares were being sold in this company for £1 per share. They're now being sold for £2.80 per share. Obviously, gives you an indication in terms of the valuations there. And then obviously forward-looking projections. I think what's really important to understand is the road that this entity has to run is still significantly greater than the road that they've already run. So there is a huge amount of potential in terms of value accrual from an investment point of view, but also in terms of from a business point of view. This sector is just really only getting started. We've spoken about it being an emerging trend. We've spoken about the amount of liquidity that's coming to the sector. This is at the forefront of governments. This is at the forefront of big corporates, and something that is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The benefits for investors looking at this today is the fact that the risk has come down massively. They have a proven concept. They are generating revenue. They have partnerships. They are winning awards. They have a prestigious team that's behind them, and they are being acknowledged, like I said, globally for that. Here on the right-hand side gives you a bit of an indication in terms of the share price outlook. Obviously, in terms of the EBITDA ratios there, 5 times EBITDA gives you a £270 million valuation. And then obviously that rolls into the share price of £16 per share. So, beg your pardon, if you're looking at this £2.80 per share current valuation today, looking at 270, then to the 430, there is a huge amount of growth forecasted and very much so achievable as these guys continue to build out these partnerships and influence their revenues going forward. So this is the last slide, and this is the enterprise investment scheme where relevant to investors. In terms of the enterprise investment scheme, it's a tax initiative which was first endorsed in the late 90s. Its sole purpose is to boost economic growth within innovative sectors, specifically targets areas such as renewable energy, sustainability, what we're looking at, impact-based sectors and areas. Okay, gives qualifying investors the ability to claim tax relief against their investment. Okay, obviously you've got the 30% income tax relief. So if you're looking at an investment of £50,000, where qualifying, you'd be looking at £15,000 worth of tax relief. If held for longer than 3 years, it's exempt from capital gains tax, and it's exempt from inheritance tax after 2 years. So like I said, a lot of the inquiries that we get from clients, high net worth and sophisticated investors, is purely and simply geared towards the tax burdens that they have at the moment, and how they can actually mitigate that. it's all well and good looking at number going up, but it's also about the efficiency element where tax is a big part of that. So again, like I said at the very beginning, EIS is a big part of the recommendations that we make to our clients. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to follow on with some questions that I feel free for you guys to. I'll get through as many as I possibly can. Now, appreciate I've just had a couple of questions come straight through asking when the shares will be available. You will have to speak to your consultant directly. Obviously, these guys haven't been raising as of late. We are expecting a round of their EIS shares in the coming days, but you will have to speak to your consultant directly. So if everyone can put their questions in, then like I said, I'll do my very best to answer as many of those questions as I possibly can. I am going to stop sharing screen just so I can see the questions as well. Okay. So we've got a question here. It's an anonymous question. What key milestones would justify a significant uplift in valuation over the next 24 months? Now, that's a really good question. The direct answer to that is going to be the build out of further partnerships, which is effectively going to incentivize their revenues, grow the market cap of the entity because the revenue is growing, which effectively will have a direct knock-on effect to the share price. And there is various partnerships that are currently in the pipeline that will be announced moving forward. There is various different negotiations that are ongoing at the moment with regards to these partnerships. So the more their business is scaled out, like I said, it's not at idea stage anymore. They have a product. It can be deployed. It can be scaled out like it is already. I believe there is conversations with regards to potential partnerships with the likes of Patagonia Group, Estee Lauder is another conversation that they're having. So the more this shift takes place, the more of an impact this is going to have on their valuation going forward, both from a company valuation and a share price valuation back to investors. Okay, I've got a question here from Robert in Glasgow. What is the minimum investment? So I believe the minimum investment is £20,000 and the maximum investment is £250,000. But like I said, the availability will have to be confirmed with your consultant. I've got a question here from Rachel. It's okay. Do I have to sell the shares after 3 years? No, you have the ability to hold on to those shares as long as you like. In terms of the company moving forward with regards to exit strategies, you would be looking at IPO, trade sale, but ultimately you have the ability, because you own those shares, to hold on to those shares as long as you decide you want to hold on to those shares for. Majority of smart money will hold, in excess of 3-5 years, because like I said, without repeating myself, this market is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. Next question. How does Teysha deal with competitors? Okay, so look, that's a good question. I think where these guys are at the moment, there is an undersupply of businesses that can effectively do what they do. But the more entities, the way I look at these things is, do you really want to be the first and do you really want to be the last? This is just from my own point of view and my own opinion. And I think my answer to that is probably not. The more entities you see coming into this sector, this is a big problem. So if you look at it from a moral aspect, the more entities that can do what these guys are doing, the better, because the sooner and the quicker we can become more sustainable with our consumption on plastic and be able to scale out with regards to biodegradable plastics. Okay. So I have a question here. If Teysha does not IPO before 3 years, which exit strategies are available? So the direct answer to that is so before 3 years. So for the EIS eligibility, it'd have to be after 3 years. But like I said, you'd be looking at a trade sale, or effectively you would work with your consultant, which would be ourselves or your relevant contact that you have for them to sell those shares for you. Question here from Graham: any major shareholders? I think the question with regards to the structure, the original founders, which you can see on the website, we can get you further information on, are the major shareholders in the company. In terms of the other shareholders, are EIS shareholders like like yourselves and I. Okay, have a question here. Anonymous: I'm looking to invest north of £250,000. How would I go around that? Again, like I said, you would. I doubt we're going to have that much availability, but ultimately, you would have to, pardon me, point that question at your consultant. Okay, guys, I'm getting a lot of questions through here. Does Teysha Technologies have any inspirational leaders on their board? Yes, so they do. Like I said, they have doctors, professors, they have entrepreneurs. So Karen Woolley, who I mentioned, is a very well-respected professor who is part of the Teysha Technologies team. And then with regards to influential figures, Kelly Slater, the 11-time world champion surfer, is, I believe, also a part of the team as well. All of that information can also be provided and is available on the website. So if you wanted to understand a little bit more about the leadership team, which that's something that I would suggest for everyone to have a look at, because the makeup of Teysha from a leadership point of view is quite respectable, very respectable. Okay, next question. If the NSF Texas Consortium is successful, how transformative is that for Teysha? That would be phenomenal. That would honestly be phenomenal. The more that stripes they have on their collar, the more that is going to put them at the forefront of big business, influential circles, which is just going to increase the visibility and awareness of what they do, which will just have a knock-on effect with regards to partnerships that they'll be able to sign going forward. And the original question that was asked at the very start with regards to, where will the value accrual for investors be going forward? We're up 180% since last year. Where's the outlook for growth going forward? Well, ticking those boxes, receiving those stripes on your collar are definitely going to contribute towards that. And from our point of view, we think that this entity is just getting started, and it's just a tip in the iceberg compared to what they're going to be able to do going forward. So, the NSF Texas Consortium, that would be massive, massive, massive information. Okay. So I'm just going to answer a couple more questions. When are the shares, expected to go live? So I would forecast early to mid next week. Can I invest in joint names? Yeah, ultimately that's up to you. With regards to EIS side of things, that is under an individual's name. Okay. So again, any information that is required, we'll be able to provide all of that. In terms of, I've had, like I said, another 46 questions come through, guys, and I'm just mindful that it is a Thursday evening. And I just want to sort of be mindful of that. So for everyone, really, really appreciate your time. I will definitely invite all questions. So if they could be emailed across admin@quanticogroup.com. Alternatively, you could speak to myself. You could speak to any of the consultants, my colleagues that you're already in contact with. Or like I said, my name's Daniel Gurr. I'm one of the managing partners. If you wanted to reach out to me directly, it's daniel@quanticogroup.com. I'd be happy to jump on a Zoom call and provide as much information as I possibly can. Without further ado, I just wanted to again thank everyone this evening, and I am mindful that some investors might not be able to get on board this round just due to availability, but we'll always do our very, very best to keep everyone circled in with regards to opportunities going forward. Just a bit of housekeeping. We also have an event coming up. I believe that's going to be at the end of April. That will be in London again. For those that have been down to these events, they are very informative. We do try to get as many of the partners. Obviously, we can't get all of them, but we try and get five or six founders, CEOs, managing directors or partners from the entities that we work with to come down, give a presentation. You're able to rub shoulders with them, ask the questions, as well as ourselves. So further information will be sent out with regards to up and coming events, and we invite all clients or potential clients to come down to those events as well to meet us and see the whites in our eyes, which is super important. Okay. Again, thank you very much for everyone's time. I hope that was informative, and I wish you guys all the very, very best. Take care. Bye-bye.